All right, so everything in the world is just ridiculous. It's pointedly ridiculous, I would say. I mean, I'm no longer believing the things I'm saying. I feel like I am now lying to the public when I cover these things because we're just reaching levels of absurdity that are offending my sensibilities, right? First and foremost, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have hired former CIA agents with a proven track record of lying to the public, gaslighting the public to help her with PR. Also, they moved to do this within the same 24 hours that I started randomly getting attacked for my coverage of Blake Lively. Remember yesterday we talked about The Cut. We're going to speak about that again because that journalist has got some deranged ideas of her own. And then I just found out more about this very interesting background of E.J. Dixon. Also, the judge in Blake Lively's case just slapped down their psychopathic request for 2.5 years worth of every message that Justin Baldoni and Justin Heath and the PR agents have ever sent to everybody, plus location data. We knew that was going to happen. And we have obtained the audio of hotshot Ari Emanuel of WME, who describes himself as ride or die for the couple. And also great political news for those of us who are anti the never-ending war campaigns. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump just absolutely humiliated Zelensky in the Oval Office in front of cameras. And it is really glorious because I'm just so tired of funding everybody else's borders, man. Can we just get like cheap groceries? Like I said, a lot going on. So let's jump right back into it. Happy Friday and welcome back to Candace. All right. First, just a funny Friday story. Last night, my husband and I, we were sitting on the couch with our kids, and my eldest, he's just 4 years old, who is kind of starting to grapple, like ideas and logic are starting to form, and he's asking a lot of questions. And he looks at me and he asks, Mommy, did you eat my brother? And I said, no, why? And he said, then why is he in your belly? It's just like, I was so tired. I just looked over at my husband and I was like, I am not prepared or well equipped to answer this question, but I just love his logic. He just thinks now he's like this ever expanding stomach and you keep saying my brother's in there. Like, did you eat my brother? It's just amazing. But I have to tell you, this toddler logic, it makes so much more sense to me, in my opinion, than Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' logic as it comes to PR and all the filings that they're doing. Because like I said, I don't even know what's real anymore. I don't even know where to begin, okay? But this is an actual headline right now in Variety. It reads that Blake Lively hires CIA alum for crisis PR in legal battle with Justin Baldoni. And there are a lot of implications here, and I love this story simply because it combines what I love most, politics and culture, and I want to explain a lot to you. We learn in this article that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have moved to hire a PR crisis manager with deep government ties. As her legal battle with Justin Baldoni escalates, she's quietly working with Nick Shapiro, the CIA's former deputy chief of staff and senior advisor to former director John Brennan. So this guy, high up, just about as high up as you could possibly get if he is the deputy chief of staff to John Brennan, who was the former CIA director, who makes me very nervous. So I'm going to tell you why. So apparently her legal team says they've given a quote to Variety. They say the litigation team for Miss Lively retained Mr. Shapiro to advise on the legal communications strategy for the ongoing sexual harassment and retaliation lawsuit occurring in the Southern District of New York. Okay, that's what Wilkie, Farr, and Gallagher, that's the excuse that they're giving to the public. So I'm going to slow this down to you and debunk that just in general, in case some of you guys are not up to date on the CIA's relationship with the mainstream media in general. Okay, so you should understand this before we draw the necessary conclusions from this really bizarre move. So it is a fact, an absolute historical fact that can never be wiped away, that the CIA, after JFK was shot in the 60s, put journalists in the mainstream media on their payroll. And they did this in order to control the narrative, right? Which is another way of saying to gaslight the public, to stop the public from asking certain questions. There's a lot of speculation that our CIA may have been involved in that assassination, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying other people are saying that. Wink, wink. Okay, so one of those journalists and publications that was put on the CIA payroll was none other than the New York Times, which was published at that time by Arthur Sulzberger. So the Sulzberger family are the ones that currently own and operate and have operated the New York Times for a very long time. And again, we're not in conspiracy land. This is right up on Wikipedia, pulling this up for you. We're looking at the entries for Operation Mockingbird. Like I said, you can look this up by yourself. This is not coming from Candace Owens. It's just a historical fact. And it reads here that in a 1977 Rolling Stone magazine article, the CIA and the media, reporter Carl Bernstein expanded upon the Church Committee's report and wrote that more than 400 U.S. press members had secretly carried out assignments for the CIA, including New York Times publisher Arthur Hayes Sulzberger, columnist and political analyst Stuart Alsop, and Time magazine, okay? And so it just goes on to say that Bernstein documented the way in which the overseas branches of major U.S. news agencies had for many years served as the eyes and the ears of Operation Mockingbird. So you can look into this yourself. And again, I want to stress that the Sulzberger family still owns and operates the New York Times. And why is that relevant? Because there is absolutely no evidence that Project Mockingbird has ever been discontinued. But there is plenty of evidence to suggest that it's still ongoing, okay? Remember, I said to you, journalists behave like hitmen. We just watched this with the Justin Baldoni case. They just sort of take out, smear, and destroy the reputations of people that they don't like, or people perhaps that their clients don't like. But the question is, who do they do that on behalf of? Who does it benefit when they tell perfectly curated lies to get people really upset, to get the public very upset? Like I said, we know that the Justin Baldoni hit piece originated from Megan Twohey from the New York Times. And now we have news here that Blake and Ryan, who for sure gave that information to Megan Twohey of the New York Times, have opted to use a former top guy at the CIA for PR. So what is he doing for them exactly? Okay. Well, the Variety article goes on to tell us that Nick Shapiro, the former CIA agent, launched a crisis PR firm called 10th Avenue Consulting back in 2015 after a very long tenure in the federal government. Now, in case you're wondering, how does a CIA agent have any experience to just launch a PR firm? Well, remember, a massive part of the CIA's job, really the most important part of the CIA's job, is managing public relations, because we, the people, wouldn't agree to go to war unless they sold that idea to us. They need a crisis. They need to, look, 9/11 happened. Are you guys fearful? Okay, we got to go. Now we're going to go to never-ending war in the Middle East. They need us to feel emotions, to be angry, to be out of control, to acquiesce to sometimes our freedoms being taken away, or sometimes to being enraged and targeting our rage towards someone like Justin Baldoni and maybe agreeing that we should sign in laws. I don't know, whatever it is. If you're working for a firm and you're like, well, we want to get like SAG-AFTRA union done, we need the public fired up. Maybe you would hire one of these guys, right? Like I said, because otherwise, why would you want and agree to your sons going to fight a war? I think naturally we're all kind of averse to that. And I would, again, argue that 50%, therefore, of what the CIA does is public relations. So here's another thing that you should know, connecting this politically. Washington, D.C., shocking news, is massively corrupt. I know, you're like, what? No, I never thought that D.C. could be corrupt. Yes, it is corrupt. Republicans, Democrats, people in between, massively corrupt institutions, because we don't have term limits, and they're there and they're just figuring out how to enrich their own pockets. They kind of forget about us once we send them to DC. And what you have a lot of times is that there are former CIA agents who keep their security clearances, meaning that they get to access the White House, they get to access national security intel, classified documents, because then when they leave their federal jobs, they can charge up the wazoo to become consultants, PR consultants if they'd like, to join legal firms, legal consultants if they like, in their federal afterlife. And they can, again, just be like, I still have access to the government, so you're going to want to pay me a lot of money. And so I'll give you an analogy, or actually an anecdote, not even an anecdote, a reality of how that can serve people. Hunter Biden's notorious laptop. if you are Hunter Biden and this laptop starts going viral right as your father is running for president, you're going to want to hire a PR crisis agency with perhaps security clearances to let you know ahead of time what exactly the government has. If you're going to get charged for a crime, to potentially help stop that plausibility and to work within the government to lie to the public just long enough, right? We just need to gaslight the public long enough for my actions not to impact my father's campaign, right? And that actually happened. We all know that actually happened. First, you were told it was like Russian disinformation, and then they had to essentially go, actually, no, these are in fact photos of Hunter Biden smoking crack. And it's a weird thing to know that we were kind of gaslit and lied to. But there's this old clip that I want to show you, because way back when, because of the obvious corruption that can take place with these security clearances, Trump revoked security clearances of former CIA people, namely John Brennan. So remember, Nick Shapiro is under John Brennan. He's the director of the CIA. Trump at one point rejected John Brennan's credentials to security clearances because he's like, this is too much corruption. And I want to show you how much of a meltdown some former CIA agents had when they went on air. And they literally threatened this guy, Paris Denard, who was for explaining to the public that the CIA keeps their security clearances, or former CIA members, because it allows them to be corrupt. Okay, take a listen to this clip.
A lot of these people that have these security clearances, and this is the secret in the swampy Washington, D.C., they have them and they keep them because it's profitable for them after they leave government. Because if you have a security clearance, especially high-level security clearances, your contracts and your consulting gigs pay you a lot more money because of the access that you have. I hope the president continues to do this, and I hope he adds Omarosa to the list, because if she has a clearance, she too, because of her actions, should have it revoked.
Well, I don't know if I'd put Omarosa in the same category of the 75 people who signed those letters, but Phil Mudd, I imagine you want to react.
Profitable, Paris. When I am requested to sit on an advisory board, let me ask you one question. How much do you think I'm paid to do that at the request of the U.S. government? Give me one answer, and you got 10 seconds. How much?
I'll ask you a question. How much are you paid for your
Answer the
consulting and
question.
contracting gigs? For being a
I have no
former
contracts
official?
with the U.S. government that pay money.
I'm not talking.
Zero.
And this is the thing.
When
I'm not talking about what the
asked to
federal
offer
government,
advice to the
Phil.
U.S. government,
Phil,
I
let's
get
be
paid
honest.
zero.
Phil, let's be
That's
honest.
it.
I'm not talking about your role with the federal government. I'm talking about the
who are you
contracts
talking
and
about?
gigs
Are
that
you
you
talking
get
about
from
General
being a
Hayden?
consultant and a contractor. The consulting firms that they form and that you all get is because you get more money when having a consultant, for having the security clearance.
That
Stop
is
acting like
incorrect.
that doesn't happen.
I have
That's the
zero
truth.
consulting relationships with the U.S. government. Zero.
I'm not talking, Phil, that's a good talking point. I'm not talking about relationship with the government. I'm talking about in the private sector. When you have a security
I
clearance
have
and you
zero
keep it.
relationships with the private sector that involve my security clearance. Zero. I get $0 from consulting companies that deal with the U.S. government. Are we clear?
Well, I will be clear in saying that everybody in Washington, D.C. knows if you don't want to be honest about it, that's on you. But if you have a security clearance and you keep it, you get more money to have it.
We're done. Get out.
Phil,
It's not your show, so I'm
25 years
staying
in
right
the
here.
service, and this is
Don't
the
be
shit I
so
get.
defensive about
Get
this.
out.
Yeah, you only freak out when you're lying, right? You'd be totally calm otherwise. But the purpose of showing you that clip is to essentially paint a picture to you of why somebody like Nick Shapiro, who Blake and Ryan have hired, might want to be launching a crisis PR firm after they leave the CIA. And he did hold on to his former security clearances. Now, he no longer holds on to those clearances because guess what? He lied to the public in a rather egregious way. He was one of the 51 former senior intelligence agents who signed that letter to gaslight us all in 2020, claiming that Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation, which was just retrospectively an insane lie, an unbelievably bold lie. And then when that lie eventually fell apart, he had his clearance revoked. Again, I'm reading this from the Variety article. It says, quote, Shapiro is not without controversy. He was one of the group of 51 former senior intelligence officials who signed the widely cited and subsequently criticized 2020 open letter stating that the Hunter Biden laptop, quote, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. And that, my friends, is exactly why Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have hired him, because he has proven that he is willing to lie without flinching, that he will straight up lie to protect his clients. He will lie to gaslight the public. And he has proven successful under that model because there are many people who took their word for it and thought, okay, this laptop, nothing in this is real, just long enough for it not to impact any election. Like maybe there are some people who would have voted differently. Who knows? We can't go back. But it shows you who he is. It tells us what we should know about his character, which is essentially that he has no morals. And so this is a terrible look for Blake and Ryan Reynolds, but these two seem to be very intent on making every wrong move, in my opinion. Like they truly believe they are too rich and too connected to have to face any responsibility for their lives. They're just going to hire people who are more immoral than them to handle it, to just make it go away. So it's now extremely, by the way, interesting to me that I suddenly got contacted at the same time by both New York Magazine and their sister publication, The Cut, by their senior writers, which I told you about yesterday. In one of the most blatant hit pieces to happen to me, I would say actually this whole year, it was pretty blatant, rather egregious. And I told you guys about this yesterday, but I want to expand upon it because more information has come to the forefront. The writer, E.J. Dixon, contacted us under the guise of an agreement, pretending that she was just interested in how my podcasts have gone viral on the Blake Lively situation. And so I agreed to this phone call because I don't really care about the smearing and libeling anymore. I think everyone left and right is kind of waking up and we're fracturing our trust with the mainstream media. But then the conversation got really weird. So first I just want to read this sentence that came out of it to show you how dishonest she was. She wrote, on her live stream, she's talking about my past extreme views that have led people to disavow me. She writes, on her live streams and her social media, she has equated the Jewish religious practice of Kabbalah with pedophilia, nodded to medieval Blide level conspiracy theory that Jews ritualistically slaughter Christian children, it's a complete lie, and has referred to some of the historically documented atrocities of the Holocaust, such as Joseph Mengelé's experiments on twins, as bizarre propaganda. So she writes that, and it's fascinating that she asked me these questions, and I gave her such concrete answers to debunk these lies in the media, and she chose not to publish it because her job was to smear me, not to clarify any of the smears that have been written about me. But that part about the Kabbalah was really interesting because on the phone call, she suddenly gets very weird, and she's like, I read on the ADL's website, I couldn't find a source for it, but I read that you think Judaism is for pedophiles. And I said, you couldn't find a source for it because I've never said that. I was like, that would be foolish, absolutely foolish. I'm Christian. What are the first 5 books of the Bible? It's Judaism. I was like, of course I never said that. And she said, so do you think they mischaracterized your statements? I said, no, I think they outright lied. And then she starts asking me about she's like, what about the Kabbalah? And I said, well, I can clarify for you what statements I did make, and I can give you the names of the authors, the Jewish authors that I read. I was referring to Sigmund Freud, who created all of these like sex theories regarding children. And I read 2 books. I read a book by David Bacon, who is he is passed away now, but he was a Jewish professor who taught at Harvard, the University of Chicago, and he wrote a book about Sigmund Freud and the Jewish mystical tradition. And then I told her, and more importantly, is this Jewish Harvard graduate, Jeffrey I'm saying his middle name wrong, Moussaif Masson, who wrote this really incredible book that is a part of our book club. We're going to read it this year, called The Assault on Truth: Freud's Suppression of the Seduction Theory. And I said, no one, in my view, has more authority to speak on Sigmund Freud than this guy, because he was hired as the assistant director, soon to become the director of Sigmund Freud Archive Center. He worked with Sigmund Freud's daughter, Anna Freud, was very close to her. And while he was working at that center, he learned German so that he could read Sigmund Freud's notes that had never been released to the public. And he basically discovers while reading this notes that Sigmund Freud had created these theories not because he actually believed that children were attracted to their parents, but because he was covering for pedophiles. Like these children were actually being assaulted by their parents. And I told her this on the phone. I literally said, here's the book, here's the author, and here are the people that have connected those dots for me. And I think we need to go back and discuss Sigmund Freud. And she didn't include any of that in the article. She just republishes the lies, which is amazing. But it's going to get even more amazing. So then I'm like, I'm pregnant, okay? And I decided that I had time to just kind of obsessively, all I like to do is research this writer, because why would you just outright smear me when you could have just clarified what I was speaking about and included what I said. And I find this article, you guys, of what really perturbed her about this Sigmund Freud thing. And it's an article that she has published, she had previously published, regarding her childhood friend who was convicted as a child molester. And I'm going to read from it directly because I think this is really important for all of us to recognize who are the people that are in control. So she's publishing an article saying my views are just so contemptible, and here's what she thinks, here's what she still thinks. And now I'm going to read you her views. This is a first-person article that she published in Kashmir magazine. She wrote a few months ago, upon looking at a former elementary school photo and doing a cursory Google search of former classmates, I discovered that a former childhood friend of mine, who I'll call Sam, a boy that I hadn't spoken to in more than 10 years, a boy who used to zip to school on his Razor scooter every morning, a boy who went to my bat mitzvah, is now a convicted child molester. Partly out of morbid curiosity and partly out of an attempt to reconcile the floppy-haired boy that I once wrote NSYNC parody lyrics with and the person that he turned out to be, I spent many late nights combing through his court documents. I learned that he had molested his half-sister, a girl I remembered as a baby in her pretty mother's stroller on multiple occasions. I learned that he was part of a child porn file-sharing community, and that the feds busted him at his mom's house. He is currently serving a 5-year sentence at a penitentiary in Texas. The rest of this article is not spent speaking about his victims or speaking about his sister. It's then spent trying to convince the readers, and I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't need to take her out of context here, that the problem is that we aren't trying to find solutions for him, for the person who molested a child and victimized other children via child pornography. The article is entitled, "Could Child Sex Robots Cure Pedophilia?" Like robots that look like children that would allow pedophiles to get out their frustrations. She wrote, I thought about earlier this week about Sam when I came across a Forbes piece about child sex robots and how they could potentially be used as a therapeutic tool or an outlet for pedophile sexual desires. She then quotes a person named Ron Arkin, who's the director of a tech lab, who says that childlike robots could be used for pedophiles the way that methadone is used to treat drug addicts. She then, going back into her first person, says, in recommending that this future technology be used in a controlled research setting, Arkin's cautiousness is understandable given how quick our society is to demonize pedophiles, as well as demonize those who suggest any mode of treatment for them short of execution. She then says, the aversion to discussing the potential reality of child sex robots is also understandable. Without a doubt, the idea of pedophiles having the opportunity to have wide-eyed, pigtailed child sex dolls sent to their homes the same way one would a bag of groceries or a bunch of books off of Amazon is incredibly horrifying. But in reading my former friend's story and in reading the stories of other pedophiles, as well as This American's Life's segment, I've become convinced that we need to stop getting caught up in our knee-jerk reactions to adults having sex with children. She literally writes this. Like, the problem is us. We need to stop getting caught up in our knee-jerk reactions to adults having sex with children, however despicable we might find it, and start focusing on rational solutions. When we talk about pedophilia, which is defined as a predominant attraction to prepubescent children, we need to get two things straight. Not all pedophiles are child molesters, that's one. And two, pedophilia is not a psychological aberration that can be easily tweaked. Many researchers have argued it's actually a fixed sexual orientation. This is an uncomfortable possibility for many to acknowledge, but the fact is that just as you hit a certain age and you knew that you were attracted to girls or boys or neither or both, pedophiles hit a certain age and they knew they were attracted to children. Like all sexual orientations, pedophilia is immutable and it's unlikely to change with medicine or therapy. Then she goes to, and she's going to make us feel really good about her friend. She really has like this guy who went to her bat mitzvah. Clearly, I don't know if she had a crush on him, but like this is her emotions are spent on him. She writes, there is no evidence, she admits, there is no evidence that child-sized sex bots or virtual child porn is any more effective as a means of curbing sexual desires towards children. But there's also no evidence that it isn't either. And we need to start thinking about pedophilia in a rational rather than an emotional light. When I first heard about Sam and the horrific things he did, I found it impossible to reconcile that shy, floppy-haired, razor-scooting 10-year-old that I knew with the 20-something bastion of evil that he'd become, and I wondered what kind of trauma he must have experienced in his youth for him to have become such a monster. But from reading the court documents, what I came to understand is that there was a third person. This person was the shy and underdeveloped for his age. This person wanted desperately to forge connections with anyone his own age, male or female, and he was intimate with both. This person was lonely. This person at one point realized that he had this feeling inside of him, and this person at another point made a terrible decision to act on it. And as horrible as this might sound, I don't feel anger towards him or even disgust. I just feel so incredibly sad for him and for all the little shy, floppy-haired boys like him who recognized this darkness inside of them and knew the futility of trying to make it go away. Ladies and gentlemen, that is E.J. Dixon, the young woman who called me and is now signaling to the public that it's my views that are problematic. It's my view. Why would people watch Candace Owens and her views? She's so problematic because she has an issue with Sigmund Freud. And no, actually, this is very problematic. This woman is a senior writer, okay? The senior writer for both New York Magazine and The Cut, okay? She also has bylines in the New York Times and was apparently an unproblematic person for the New York Magazine and The Cut, okay? She doesn't hide her beliefs. She has this weird way, as I started going back through her work, of sort of fusing the topics of sex and children in her public persona. For example, when she was 7 months pregnant, okay? She opened up to The Cut about how she was suddenly really into watching, quote unquote, terrible gangbang porn. This is it. This is actually published in The Cut. E.J. Dixon found herself with the libido of a teenage boy, including a desire to watch hardcore pornography, the kind of terrifying gangbangs that she'd never seen or saw before. And by the way, this is the tip of the iceberg, like, because I just thought it was just too gross to keep going through the stuff that she promotes and the stuff that she says publicly. And I'm getting the feeling that it's really my staunch views against pedophilia. Even if a pedophile attended your bat mitzvah when he was young, that is what really upset her. I want to be clear, I could show you much more on that stuff, but the point of all of this is so that you understand that these are the people, these are the sorts of people, these are the morality, this is the morality that guides the people that write hit pieces. So whether they work for the CIA and they have no problem lying, whether they work for one of the CIA's satellite publishers and they have no issues lying, what they share in common is, in my view, just immorality. Like, they are just happy to do and say whatever and feel nothing. And they always have this perverse relationship with the truth. Like, they root for the bad guy. Again, nowhere in this piece she talked about his little sister again. It's just like, I feel really sad for Sam, not his little sister that he molested. Anyways, you guys, we have obtained the audio of Ari Emanuel, which we're going to get to. We also have to get to Trump slapping down Zelensky alongside J.D. Vance. It's really quite a show. But first, I want to remind you about Crowd Health. Health insurance is confusing, expensive, and it's frustrating. And claim denials are becoming more and more common. In fact, 1 in 5 Obamacare claims were denied last year, and that is just unacceptable. The headache of health insurance is exactly why Crowd Health was created. It's not health insurance. It's a better way to pay for your health care through crowdfunding. Crowd Health provides you with a portfolio of tools seamlessly woven together that creates a low-cost healthcare solution. They help you find doctors, they negotiate your bills, they fund those bills through a peer-to-peer funding platform for way less. Crowd Health is the go-to health insurance alternative. Individual plans are just $175 or $575 for a family of 4 or more, and you'll get access to telemedicine visits, discounted prescriptions, and so much more without doctors' networks getting in the way. And of course, when you join the crowd, a group of members just like you who want to help pay for each other's unexpected and medical events. So let Crowd Health help you with your healthcare needs. Get started today for just $99 per month for your first 3 months by using code Candace at joincrowdhealth.com. Crowd Health is not insurance, so learn more at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com with promo code Candace. Also, we know the IRS is the largest collection agency in the world, and with April 15th now fast approaching, it is more aggressive than ever. In 2025, enforcement has ramped up, and if you owe back taxes or you have unfiled returns, waiting is not an option. The longer you do wait, of course, it gets worse. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing you could possibly do, though. So get ahead of it and getting ahead of it right now. That's the smart move. And I'll tell you this, you should not contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you, because not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, meaning that they know exactly which agents to deal with and which to avoid, with proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor. So whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. So talk with one of their strategists today, because it's free. Just call 1-800-958-1000, or you can simply visit tnusa.com/Candace. That's tnusa.com/Candace. Okay, first we should cover this update in the Blake Lively lawsuit. So you will remember, I think it was last week, we covered this absurd subpoena that was filed by Blake Lively's team. They were asking for basically every text message and every phone call for every person that they are suing dating back 2.5 years. It was a ridiculous request. They knew they were never going to get it. And I said, why would they do this? Why would they file something that is no court would ever grant in a million years? And I said, probably because, you can literally go back. I predicted this. I said, probably they are going to do this because they think the public is stupid. And so when the judge come back and says no, they're going to go to the press and they're going to say, why doesn't Justin Baldoni want to give us every single communication and text message that he's ever had for the last 2.5 years? He must be hiding something. Like what? And guess what? That's exactly what happened. The judge slapped down that absurd request. And there's a little more nuance there, and we'll get into it. But quite literally, this is what the spokesperson for Lively said. They said, quote, "What is Brian Friedman hiding?" That's what they said to Deadline after the ruling was made public. They continued, quote, "After promising to release all the receipts, Friedman ran into court to keep secret the phone records of who Baldoni, Heath Sarowitz, Nathan Wallace, and Abel were calling during their retaliatory campaign. So instead of getting these records from the phone carriers the way that we initially requested, the judge has ruled that if we simply submit more specific requests, we will be able to get the records we are seeking." The spokesperson added, "Today we will do that, and we are submitting those requests directly to the defendants involved, and we look forward to seeing the records." I mean, it is weird how dumb they think the public is. Like, what do you mean? Why on earth would you be allowed to see every single message that someone has sent for 2.5 years, predating even the time frame that these people were their PR agents? What are you talking about? You're just looking for stuff so you can embarrass them, so you can know things about them. I would never in a million years be like, yeah, you can subpoena every single text message that I have with my sisters and my friends and my husband and whoever it is. Anyways, I'll take you through the judge's ruling because it is actually a kind of a split ruling, obviously very much in the favor of Justin Baldoni, but I'll tell you this so that you know what happens next. So Judge Lehman writes, Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath moved to quash the subpoenas issued to their cellular providers, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. For the reasons following, the motion is granted in part and denied in part. Lively served the subpoenas on February 12, 2025. The subpoenas requested all documents concerning ingoing and outgoing calls or text messages related to telephone numbers belonging to Wayfarer parties and related individuals within the time period of December 1st, 2022 to the present, included but not limited to call logs, text logs, data logs, and cell site location information. She wants to know even where you were when you sent the text to your doctor about the rash on your child's buttocks. Like, that's what they essentially were asking for, okay? Now, the telephone numbers of the Wayfarer parties and related individuals are identified in the subpoenas. Then they say that what happens next was that on February 14th, the Wayfarer parties obviously came back and said no. They moved to squash it. And they said because what you're asking for is, quote, overly broad and invasive. So the court then ordered that they both meet and say, come back with something logical that you can agree to. After the parties conferred, Lively agreed to remove all documents and to remove the request for locational data, and to clarify that the subpoenas seek only call logs and text logs that reflect non-content and numerical information regarding ingoing and outgoing text messages. The Wayfarer parties then came back and said, no, they shouldn't even have a right to that because some people are not involved at all in this lawsuit. Why don't you just request basically the numbers of people that are like our communications, but why would you have third parties? Why would you be able to see what's going on between them? And so the judge came back and he said, they objected to the fact of the phone numbers for anyone with whom that they converse with. Lively argued that the purpose of those subpoenas is to lead to admissible evidence regarding communications, not only for the defendants, but among the larger network of individuals who perpetuated the untraceable campaign against Ms. Lively. Now, the judge came back and he said that the court must weigh the relevance of the probative value of the documents that were being sought against the privacy interests. And he felt that the subpoenas of the Wayfarer parties' phone records, even as Blake Lively had modified the request, did not meet those standards, that the request was overly intrusive and disproportionate to the needs of the case. And here's where it gets funny, because he says this. He says, even though Lively has narrowed her request to exclude the content of calls or messages, the phone records themselves will still contain sensitive information regarding doctors, psychologists, or even acquaintances. Lively has identified no means to segregate those numbers that may have some relevance to her case from numbers that would have no relevance to her case. And here's the biggest part. She mainly argues that the subpoenas will help her identify the larger network of individuals who perpetuated this campaign against her. But according to Lively's own complaint, this negative campaign did not begin until August of 2024. And then he cites her own filings and says, ma'am, you filed a lawsuit saying, quote, that the beginning of the plan to destroy Lively's reputation began in August of 2024. Now you're requesting to see everything dating back from 2022. He writes, it is therefore unclear how communications to and from Wayfarer parties in 2022 would reveal individuals who participated in the campaign. That is the kindest way that a judge can say to you that your lawyers are stupid. That's like he's like being nice here. He's like, your lawyers are really stupid because you guys started this lawsuit and you said that this campaign began in August 2024. And now you're suddenly asking me to see text message dating back to 2022. You are not able to hold a logical thought, but guess what? I, as a judge, I am able to hold a logical thought. So we're going to slap that down. You obviously cannot do that. You can, however, and this is where he grants them the request, you can, however, receive the communications regarding not just Wayfarer parties, but potentially third parties they were communicating with from that time of August 2024 going forward. So they're basically going to get 4 months of messages from August 2024 until December in 2020 of messages, including third parties. They felt that that was relevant, that she could, in fact, see who they're texting and who those individuals who they potentially could have been coordinating with that are not parties to the suit, as long as it is people that are mentioned in the suit. So she's mentioned some third-party individuals, like she mentioned Jed Wallace. He was not actually a party to the suit. Well, she will be able now to receive his messages for 4 months, to be able to see if phone calls took place for 4 months. And of course they did, because they hired him. So I don't know what they're going to be able to discern from those communications, but he has granted that order. So it's really a positive movement, I would say, obviously, for Justin Baldoni's team. They basically got everything they wanted, and they're just going to have to, which they were willing to do, comply with a limited scope subpoena. Okay, now we have to get to this leaked audio of Ari Emanuel and Freakonomics. Remember we showed you, I think it was yesterday, how they pretended that something happened with the audio and we don't know what it is. I now understand why it is that they did not want this audio to see the light of day. And you're going to hear something that Ari Emanuel says that is going to be extremely problematic for his clients, who he's quote unquote ride or die for. You're going to hear him say that. And yeah, it's definitely going into the lawsuit. It definitely proves the points that Justin Baldoni was hurt financially by what Blake Lively did with the rumors, and including with the New York Times, that he lost money and he lost opportunity. So this clip is rather long. It is 3 minutes. I feel like we should let you hear it in its entirety. My team cleaned it up. Again, it's a crappy audio. We cleaned it up the best that we could, so you might have to strain your ears a little bit. But here is Ari Emanuel on stage, the Freakonomics podcast. Take a listen.
I wonder if you could tell us about a little bit of a mess that I gather you've been involved in.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I know where you're going with this one.
Do you have notes on it?
Oh, yeah. Those are the two things I said to myself, this could come up.
Okay,
Listen out.
so I have to admit, I don't keep up that much on Hollywood. But even I caught wind of the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds. Let the record show for those listening at home, Ari just slit his throat.
I mean, it's like up, bad situation that Baloney, whatever his name is doing. And it's possible.
Now, he was your client too, until recently.
Yeah, until I fired him.
Right.
You know,
Just give a little bit
I'm
of a
just going to say the
backstory.
following. It's not really fair. I've known Ryan and Blake for over a decade. They're really incredible people. In Hollywood, they have been incredibly successful. People work with them. They've never had any bad mojo out there and treated people badly. They kind of are charitable, could help them with their foundation. They've given tons of money away. If what is alleged in her lawsuit that happened on social media, just because she complained to the studio that things were unhealthy on the set, that he was the director and this man was the producer, and they did to her what they're being alleged, they're really bad people. And Blake, I know Blake, I know Ryan, they're actually good people. Now, social media is a really good thing at times because it lets people, stars, connect with their fans. But these two guys used it in an evil way, if that's true. And we just have to be cognizant that you can root, and they should no longer be out there intimidating people, using social media now and trying to hurt them and using their what they have been doing prior to it now to go against them. They should just stop since they think they're innocent and let the process play itself out. These are good people that have been in the business for decades and have never had any bad press about them, and all the people they worked with like them. And so, is this true what they're saying in that allegation? These are two bad guys.
This concerns the making of a film where there's sex scenes and there's, I guess, what is called in Hollywood an intimacy coordinator.
They didn't have much. I mean, and then they went after him on social media. It's disgusting.
Can I just say this is very juvenile, but when I first read that and I knew I was going to be talking to you, I was wondering, I was trying to picture like Ari Emanuel on set as an intimacy coordinator. Is that a role, a job you
No, I mean,
could do well?
It is actually not a joke. I mean, that's actually an important role. She felt that she was not being protected. She complained, and then these people tried to go after her. They should stop. And they're still trying to do it, and they should stop.
And what was your role? Did you fire him as a
I fired
fireman?
them. I'm a ride or die. And they're good people.
Yeah. All right. I know you have a flight to get on. Do you want to tell us where you're going, by any chance?
I'm going to the 50th anniversary of SNL. I can't wait.
So that last portion is the smoking gun. Don't forget that Justin Baldoni is alleging that he lost opportunities, that he was fired from WME because I told you, the rumors were, and I told you take it to the bank, that Ryan Reynolds went in there and said he wanted him dropped from WME, and somebody at WME who just outed himself made it happen. And that's Ari Emanuel, the CEO of WME, is now bragging that he dropped them. And he says his reason is because he's ride or die. Now, remember, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have already denied. They said, oh, they had nothing to do with WME dropping him. This just proves that they lied. So Ari, in his maybe suffering from the same narcissistic condition as Ryan Reynolds, became braggadocious. He needed to be like, yeah, I'm so powerful, Justin Baldoni. And he just said too much. And this would have been why they would have realized that this tape was not a good idea for their legal strategy. Like, you can't play the victim and pretend you had nothing to do with him being fired and then be like, yeah, I fired them because he's ride or die as soon as I found out about it and they told me about it. Yeah. What you did directly led to the consequence of him losing a contract or of him being a client of the biggest agency in Hollywood, which is WME. So Ari Emanuel, like I said, even these billionaires just get real gutsy and they start acting like gangsters. He sounds like a gangster when he's talking, right? He has no respect for Baldoni, no respect for the process, and basically is saying everyone online needs to shut up. And we're not exactly shutting up, and we are following all of this. And obviously, if you are Brian Friedman and you see that this has leaked, you're like, yes, this is exactly what we needed. We needed to hear this audio, and there's now no way they can deny this claim. There's no way that this claim gets denied, that what they did hurt Justin Baldoni's career and hurt his reputation, because listen to what somebody with that much power is now saying, and he's saying it like it's true about Justin Baldoni. Like, I know them. I've known them for years. They wouldn't lie about this. And yeah, I don't like this guy, Baloney Baldoni. Yeah, he's hurt in Hollywood. He's blacklisted in Hollywood is effectively what something like that means. All right, guys, want to get to speaking to you about 7 Weeks Coffee, because, you know, I love them. They're America's pro-life coffee company that's on a mission to fund the pro-life movement, one cup of coffee at a time. So if you're wondering why they're called 7 Weeks Coffee, it's because at 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean, and it's the same time a heartbeat is clearly detected on an ultrasound. They donate 10% of every sale to support pregnancy care centers across the country. They've raised over $750,000 for these centers, and they have saved thousands of lives. And I can tell you about the coffee because I'm very picky about what I drink. Their coffee's mold-free, pesticide-free, shade-grown, and it's low acid, and it's organically farmed, so it truly checks all the boxes. And right now, if you subscribe to 7 Weeks Coffee, you will get a free 2-pack of their new single-serve brew bags to take your coffee wherever life takes you. So whether you're traveling, working, or adventuring, you can easily enjoy a rich, flavorful cup of coffee by adding hot water and letting the to-go bag steep for a few minutes. So go to 7weekscoffee.com and save 15% forever if you subscribe. Plus, exclusively for my listeners, if you use code Candace, you'll get an extra 10% off your first order. That's a 25% total savings on your first order. So head to 7weekscoffee.com and use code Candace today. We have to speak about this Zelensky meeting. I don't know where you guys stand. Can't wait to hear the chat. I am just so over the never-ending wars. I have been against Zelensky since day one. We jumped out of Afghanistan after decades of sons and daughters being killed, and with nothing to show. Nothing to show. There's billions of dollars given to a region. We have no idea what was happening. Was it just a money laundering operation? What is the explanation for Afghanistan? We've got nothing, literally. What were they doing? I know that some people were having to guard their poppy fields. Was it just a way to create the opioid crisis? Was this for Big Pharma? We're never going to get any answers. But literally 2 weeks after we got out of Afghanistan, we jumped into being involved because the most important thing ever was for us to defend Ukrainian borders. Even though the majority of Americans cannot point out Michigan on a map, suddenly everybody was like, no, Ukraine is it, and didn't really know the background of our involvement and the color revolution that we launched in 2014 in Ukraine, installing essentially someone that was controlled by America, controlled by NATO, to be a leader in that region. We caused the regional issues there. We did. NATO, America, we caused those issues dating back to 2014. No matter what anybody tells you, that is the truth, okay? We staged a coup. And so Zelensky is just a person who is a puppet. He is not a real leader in that region. And he has taken billions from American taxpayers, and watching him disrespect us by showing up. He has done Vanity Fair. He has done Vogue twice. He has done the cover of Forbes. He was on the Lex Friedman podcast, okay? And every time he comes to the White House, he can't even be bothered to put on a suit. So you can't afford groceries. You can't afford to fill up your tank. And he doesn't care. He's just like, oh, well, you know what? I'm just going to dress in my sweatpants, my military fatigues, because he's a propagandist. He's supposed to be selling to you like he's like on the front lines. He thinks he's in a movie. And that's because before becoming the president, he was literally just an actor. He was like a Netflix actor, so to speak, right? He was on a very popular television show in Ukraine where he played, I'm not even kidding, I would talk about The Matrix. He played an actor that went on to become president. And then he was an actor who went on to become president. You can't even believe these things. It's true, okay? And so that's his goal. He's an actor. He's supposed to wear outfits. He's with tons of A-list celebrities. You're in a war and thousands of men are dying, and you're making time to do the cover of Vogue twice? Vanity Fair? Guys, you have to realize how unbelievably ridiculous and wrong that is. And so it has been nice. So as soon as this guy gets out of the car, like he's just a buddy, to Trump, and he's just going there to pick up some more money. I mean, he actually got angry when someone suggested that we cut off these welfare checks to Ukraine. He's like, no, you pay for me. You pay for me and do whatever I want. This is the first time where he went to the White House and Trump looked down at him and was like, what are you wearing? I'm going to show you. Like, he makes a little smart comment like, oh, okay, show some respect. Take a listen.
Ready close? How are you? Ready shut?
He's all dressed up today.
President Trump, what's your message to Vladimir Putin, sir? President Trump, you got enough. President Trump, you got enough.
Thank you very much.
That's good enough. So Zelensky has always, to me, been giving Veruca Salt, don't care how, I want it now. You know, don't care how, I want you guys to get back to work and you're going to keep funding my war, which even AI will tell you they never had a means of winning. Okay, this was just a never-ending money laundering opportunity, get money out of the taxpayers' dollars, and then they go, oh, we lost it. Pentagon doesn't know where all of the billions of dollars went. That's just what keeps happening all the time. And I have been calling this out since 2022, okay, before it was cool or popular to recognize that we were getting got, like we were just getting got in the Ukrainian laundromat over there. Here's my tweet from 2022. I literally wrote, I cannot stop laughing at how Zelensky always intentionally styles himself like he just came out of the trenches as a recurring piece of propaganda. He just has no time to put on a suit, you guys. He's just so busy doing hero things with your money. He can't be bothered to wear a suit. There's no reason he can't put on a suit other than the fact that he's trying to sell to the public that he is on the front lines. It's a movie role for him, and that drives me insane. So you have to imagine how absolutely giddy I was when I saw this clip circulating from C-SPAN of J.D. Vance, Trump, and Zelensky in the Oval Office, because Trump is looking at him like, you're like a bratty kid. You don't even have the respect. Even you knew during Christmas time when you were going, or it was your birthday and you were going to see your grandparents, you knew they were going to write a check and they were going to slip $100 or $20 in there. You knew to come correct, right? You knew to have some respect because your grandparents are going to give you a little bit of money and you're going to act surprised that there's money in there. You're going to say thank you. That's not him. That's not Zelensky. He's Veruca Salt. Don't care how. I want it now. I want the whole world. I want to wear them like braids in my hair and I don't want to share them. Okay? That is Zelensky. And so today, for the first time in 4 years, in my view, he got the treatment that he deserves from the American people. Not even the American people, the American representatives, J.D. Vance and President Donald Trump. Take a listen to this meeting.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are
Mr.
not
President,
strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You
God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what
I'm not
You're in
dictating.
no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position.
I
You don't
was
have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing
But
cards.
right now, you don't.
I'm
Yeah,
very
you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What you-
III.
what you
You're
thinking about?
gambling with
What you
World
thinking
War
about?
III. And
You-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. It's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
you said thank you.
Even today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Zelensky needs a spanking. He needs an old-fashioned spanking. Go outside, get the switch. Back when they used to do it in the day before we were coddling toddlers. That is toddler behavior. To just wear a suit. You're going to ask for money. Wear a suit. Have some respect. Do not litigate matters in front. Could you just imagine the audacity of your child like speaking to you? He is a welfare child. He is ghetto, okay? People, I used to say ghetto, and the media would always lie about that. Like, oh, Candace calls black people ghetto. There are people all around the world who act ghetto, and he is a welfare child, okay? Make no mistake. I don't care where he's getting his military fatigues, which he apparently has never-ending supply of. Him coming out with his hand out and acting like a bratty child should be treated in that manner, okay? That's how toddlers, you need to put them in their place and remind them, okay? Adults are speaking. You don't use that tone with me. So I say to my son, you don't use that tone with me. You don't speak to adults like that. Why? Because you're a child and it's inappropriate. And that's how I felt watching him. I'm like, who are you, okay? And he's lucky it wasn't me in there. He's lucky it wasn't me in there, because I promise you, if I was in there and he was talking to me like that for taking money from the mouths of my family's out there, they can't put gas in their tank, and you're over here coming here in your sweatpants. Oh, it would have been over. It would have been over. This is why I just do this from home. Because I can't be out there dealing with men acting like that little man child that he is. And so I was happy to see this. And by the way, the best part was that Ukrainian's ambassador, who probably is just his babysitter, who probably just has to write down the lines he's supposed to remember, and saw this happening. Look at her face as she's watching this correspondence in the Oval Office.
But I said to you, I want a ceasefire. With guarantees. Because you get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
Dang, my child just do not know how to act. I told him to just say these 3 things, and he's out of control right now, and we're about to lose all this money, and I can't believe he couldn't just pull it together. And I just have to call out the hero here, the reporter Brian Glenn of Real America's Voice, because nothing has been more real and more American and more of our voice, more representative of our voice than him straight up asking Zelensky about this little outfit that he's wearing. Take a listen.
Second question.
My second question for President Zelensky. No. Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, you have problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting.
I don't have such.
Office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe
maybe
something like yours, yes. Maybe something better, I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than, yeah. Thank you.
And of course, like all the rest of the leaders, like Emmanuel Macron, what is his background in? Drama club, theater. And so for him, like I said, it is a costume that he's wearing now. He gets up in the morning, he's like, how can I look like I'm a military guy that's playing a role? This is why he hangs out with Sean Penn. What he desperately wants to be is a Hollywood actor. It's why he spends so much time with Hollywood actors. He wants Ari Emanuel to be his agent, okay? These are just the facts. If you've been paying attention, these are the facts, and I am over it. I do not care. Piers Morgan jumped into it and was like, well, Elon Musk doesn't wear a suit in the White House. Guess what? Elon Musk isn't taking billions of dollars away from the taxpayer. Do you understand the difference here? And listen, if you guys in Europe, because you guys love this war so much, because you have an aging population that's still high on what I would refer to as Cold War propaganda. Like, these are the kids, this boomer generation that grew up, and like in the way that we had fire drills, you got to think about this. They had nuclear drills, okay? And the kids would get under their desks and they'd be like, oh, Russia's gonna bomb you. Russia's gonna nuclear bomb us. And if you get under your desk, this is gonna save you. Pointedly ridiculous, completely crazy. But obviously it's stuck with this generation because they are so ridiculous when on the topic of Russia. It's like Russia, 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 Russia. We gotta be afraid of, I'm not afraid of Russia, okay? I have an understanding that they have a smaller GDP than California. This whole idea that they're trying to recreate the Soviet Union is a nonsense. It is propaganda. It is stupid. It is beyond stupid. It is literally just a way to keep people fearful. It is CIA propaganda, because what's really happening is we're expanding into their territory, guys. Take a look at what the EU is. Take a look at what NATO is. It's military people that are on the border of Russia's country, not the other way around. Russia is not in Mexico. They're not in Canada. I don't care. I want nothing to do with this nonsense. You think Putin bad? You fund it. You fund Zelensky. You be his never-ending pocketbook. You love that, Piers Morgan? Do it. You love that, United Kingdom? Do it. You think that this you just forever want to be his granddad? Fine. I have no issue with that. But the American people are tired of it. And I have to tell you, we are tired of being the pocketbook to the world, especially while our countries are in deterioration. When we look around and we have all of these issues and we can't even get things to look nice, the streets to look clean everywhere. Crime is rampant in inner cities. And you keep telling us, I have to care about this little small man who doesn't have the decency to put on a suit. Pass. Miss me entirely with this. So Trump then gave a statement on the meeting. He tweeted this. He tweeted, "We had a very meaningful meeting in the White House today. Much was learned that could never be understood without conversation under such fire and pressure. It's amazing what comes out through emotion. And I have determined that President Zelensky is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. I don't want advantage. I want peace. He disrespected the United States of America and its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he is ready for peace." Donald J. Trump. And then Zelensky replied with this on Twitter about the visit. "Thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your visit. Thank you, POTUS, Congress, and the American people. Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and we are working exactly for that." Okay, so it looks like his ambassador took the phone and just said, "Listen, you're done. You're done for today. Go take a shower, go to sleep. You fumbled the ball greatly." All right, guys, before I read some of your comments and your opinions on this, the average person today is feeling the financial strain more than ever. Expenses are up, wages are not keeping pace, and many people are finding it nearly impossible to make ends meet. With the little left over after covering the basics, it's no surprise that many are resorting to credit cards just to get by, often carrying high balances and interest rates in the 20s or even the 30s. So if you are a homeowner and you are stuck in the cycle of mounting debt, you should call my friends at American Financing, because their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving homeowners an average of $800 a month, helping you put your hard-earned money back where it belongs. Plus, if you act now, you might even be able to skip your next mortgage payment. There are no upfront fees, so it costs you nothing to find out how much you could be saving each month. It's time to break free from the stress of debt. Talk to American Financing today and take control of your financial future. Call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, let's hear what you guys are saying. I see some people putting Ukrainian flags in the chat. Rose writes, "Retirement day today after 35 years in Buffalo public school system. I went out with a bang because I believe in truth. You, Candace, always give us the truth." Thank you so much and congratulations. I can only imagine the things that you have seen with 35 years of public school system, probably deterioration, by the way. Speaking of things that are just moving downward in this country, the education system has moved downward in the last 35 years. And so thank you for your contributions and trying to correct the ship. S. writes, says, "Hi, Candace. Missed the first part of this live, but loved your take on Zelensky. You inspired me to get closer to God as a Muslim and keep writing as I study dentistry. I hope one day that I will write something that you enjoy." I hope so, too. And definitely, I just want you to know that I'm terrified of dentists. It's like a thing. I try not to go. I literally just everything. But I love orthodontists, which is weird. I will spend so much time in an orthodontist chair. I have to be kicked out of orthodontists because they're just like, I don't know what you want me to do for you. I just like it. It's weird. Joseph writes, are Taylor Swift fans are Swifties? If Taylor Swift fans are Swifties, are we candies? That's a very good question. Are you candies? You might be candies. I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Joseph. Brittany writes, "Congratulations on 4 million subs." Yes, guys, we did it. 4 million subs. I'm so excited about that. We started this in mid-June of last year, and we had 1.3 million, and now we're at 4 million. And I am so grateful to all of you guys for making this happen. It wasn't even a goal that we had, and we absolutely smashed that anyways. And that's the first time I've ever had 4 million subs on YouTube. Never even had that on my prior channel at a prior network. Brittany writes, that was what you said. Congrats on 4 million subs, and I can't wait to get sucked into another web of craziness starting on Monday. Thank you for making all of us conspiracy theorists, quote unquote. Christina writes, Candace, what do you think is going on with the stringing along of the release of the Epstein files? I'm a bit disappointed, and I find it slightly alarming of the promises being made and the promises not being kept. I gave my take on this yesterday, Christina. If you go back and watch it in the comments, or I think we actually covered it, but we're never going to see it, because too many powerful people are involved in it, and also it implicates Israel, and we never see any files that could potentially implicate Israel. That's my take on it. So put it out of your mind. It's never going to happen. Helda writes, deep down, we always knew that we were being lied to. Now we have access to everything, giving them no room for lies. You do an amazing job at making them look like clowns. Facts. Congratulations on 4 million. Yeah, and this is why they hate me. This is why someone as creepy and weird as EJ writes these sorts of articles, because now we have a way to get around the mainstream media, and I'm giving you the documents. You can go fact check this yourself. I don't consider myself to be an authority on this stuff. I consider you guys to be my colleagues, and we're all researching and we're learning together. And if we get something wrong, we can pivot and we can say, okay, that was wrong. We covered this last week. Here's how we can patch that and fix it. And I just think the era, that's what you want to call it, of people looking up to reporters as if they're honest and truthful and non-biased is just completely over. Right and left, we know that that is just not the circumstance, and that it's going to require us to start thinking critically and to continue to think critically, even about the people that you follow like me. Like, just fact check stuff yourself, make sure everything is real. And yeah, I think that's all that we can really offer. I'm equally as excited to embark on the Harvey journey beginning next week. So get fired up, you guys. It's going to be, you're not even going to know how to process it. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Go to CandaceOwens.com, buy yourself a book, support independent journalists, make him a sandwich, available on sale now. You can also sign up for the book club, which is going to make EJ Dixon cry when we get to this book, The Assault on Truth. She's going to call you guys anti-Semitic. Yeah, I'm done. It's you guys. You guys are Adolf Hitler, not me anymore. Once you say anything bad about the cherished Sigmund Freud, you should see, I don't know, the media freaks out. They're like, no one should know about the truth about him. And I'm like, book club, book club. I'm so excited for the book club. Okay, so yeah, we're doing that. Sorry, EJ. Sorry for you and your friend Sam. Whatever. We'll see you next week.